Good morning from Aberdeen Airport. Wow, that's a noisy place. But today we ain't flying nowhere. This is one of the official starting points for the North East 250, and that's a driving loop here in Scotland that I didn't know anything about until one of my subscribers told me about it. I've got a couple of days off, so I thought, why not go and get a feel for this road, see what it's like. This isn't going to be a comprehensive guide by any means. I've only done about 20 minutes research on it. Well, let's go and see what it's like anyway. The official route appears to bypass the city of Aberdeen, and I'm happy to go along with this as I don't fancy sitting in rush hour traffic. And this means the first place we come to is a bit of a hot potato in these parts, Trump International Golf Links at Balmedie. This is of course a beautiful location for a golf course, but for me it's a bit stale and corporate, and I'd much rather see it in its pre-2012 natural splendour. Here you can see the wind turbines that really upset the owner of this golf course. As you head north, you can always take the A90 to Peterhead, but that wouldn't really be in the spirit of the route. Despite the time restraints that I had, my rule was to try and hug the coast as much as possible and stick to the smaller coastal roads. We've arrived in Cruden Bay, and this is my first stop of the day. We're going down to Slains Castle, a castle that's been there since I think about the 16th century, although it has been remodelled a lot through the years. Now it's a ruin, and it's known as Dracula Castle. We'll soon find out why. It's certainly a bit of a hike from the car park to get here, but it's well worth it. What a setting this place has. Now, we might be in the land of castles here in Scotland, but to my knowledge there's not that many places of this scale and history that you can just go and wander about. Back to the Dracula connection. Now, it is known that Bram Stoker spent a lot of time in this area when he was writing Dracula, and he's known to have been invited to Slains Castle many times, and this is thought to be the inspiration for Dracula's castle. And nowhere more so than here in the octagonal room in the heart of the castle. With a courteous bow, he opened for me himself the door to the octagonal room, and I entered my bedroom. If you do decide to visit here, be sure to take care and focus. There's lots of staircases like this one where you can walk up and down freely, but there's no barriers. You could easily fall, and I mean fall a long way. Nah, we're not going down there. Well, that was an absolutely fascinating place, and like I say, with modern health and safety rules, I'm amazed that you can just walk around there, but please take care if you do visit. We're now not too far from the fishing towns of Peterhead and Fraserburgh, and they'll probably be the next stop. I think there's a few lighthouses up there as well. So we'll just head back to the van and continue the journey. What a beautiful morning so far. Morning.
Morning.
A quick stop in the little village of Bodham, a place I've never even heard of before. But again, that's the beauty of this coastline. It's dotted with these little fishing villages that are just absolutely beautiful. But of course, I'm a sucker for a lighthouse, so That's what we're here for. Okay, so we're at Buckenness Lighthouse. The bad news is that it's private and there's no access. The good news, potentially, is that it appears to be self-catering. So can you stay at the lighthouse? Alicia! Oh, and by the way, we can see Peterhead now off in the distance. That's where we're headed next. I've never thought of Peterhead, or should I say Peterhead, as the most beautiful town in the world, but on a day like today it's hard to beat. It's all about big, proper offshore fishing here, and you can certainly see that down here at the harbour. I was just about to leave Peterhead and continue the journey, and then I noticed it's got its very own Alcatraz, a prison that I thought was actually still in commission. A bit of a notorious place as well. But now it's a museum. Let's see if we can get in and have a look. How cool is this? Welcome to what was Scotland's toughest jail from 1888 to 2013. This place has been home to some dodgy people throughout its history and was Scotland's only convict prison, meaning hard labour for its guests. It's had a very colourful history, most recently hitting the headlines in 1987 when the SAS stormed the building to successfully end a violent riot. It was super interesting to tour a prison that was still in use not so long ago, and I must admit I love their use of mannequins. Well, that was one of the best tours I have ever been on. If you're in Peterhead, you've got to come here. The audio tour as well, it just brought the whole place to life. What an incredible tour. En route to my next stop, the road was pretty much disappearing beneath me, but I pushed on to see another lighthouse I had no idea about before researching this trip. I really wanted to come and see this lighthouse at Rattray, but I didn't quite expect the road to be like that. I think it's more of a 4x4 road, but I just about made it. Now just at the end of this path here, we're going to be seeing not only a lighthouse, but something very typical of this stretch of coastline, and that's sand dunes. So in between all the rugged rocky coastline, you've got these little stretches of beautiful sandy beaches. They're not easy to walk though, and the grass when you're wearing shorts, ouch. So there's what we came for, another lighthouse. But look at that beach and that beautiful coastline. So as soon as we get back up onto the main road, the next major town is going to be Fraserburgh. Like Peterhead, I think that's a real kind of fishing town. And then we'll be going right along the top of the coast, and there's lots of little fishing villages in there, and I'll try and stop off in a few of those to let you see them. And that'll take us all the way to Lossiemouth, and I think that's where I'm going to camp tonight, down at the shore at Lossie. I think this is possibly the first time I've ever been in Fraserburgh. What a place! I love it. If you like boats, you'll like Fraserburgh. I've never seen seagulls this big before. Wow, they're well fed. I love the colourful front of Bruce's paint store. I guess this is where the ship's painters have been taking the excess off their brushes for years. Maybe I'm just a complete boat geek, but to see a harbour with so much going on, especially in a time when the fishing industry is in decline, it's just really refreshing, and I could sit here and watch this all day, but unfortunately it's time to move on. Fraserburgh is definitely one of these places though I would like to come back to and spend a bit more time here, especially on a day like this. Hi seagull. We've turned the corner now at Fraserburgh, and over my shoulder all the little fishing villages are stretching out behind me. Let's go and check them out. It doesn't take long to start seeing the little communities that have barely changed over hundreds of years. Our first stop will come after a steep descent into Pennan, a village made famous by its starring role in Bill Forsyth's 1983 classic Local Hero. So welcome to Pennan, a place that is as beautiful as the drive is scary to get here. And as gorgeous as it is, this isn't even unique to this coastline. There's maybe 5 or 6 of these little villages dotted along the coast. They're all built behind these massive hills, and then you've got the little village down by the sea and a little harbour. Not the easiest place to build a village, that's for sure. But wow, it's stunning. The phone box you see here isn't the original from the movie. No, I'm afraid that was just a prop. And the real thing today doesn't even stand in the right place. The last washing line pole here marks where it was in Local Hero. So down behind us there is the village of Crathie. I'm not going to drive down there, it's not recommended. I've parked just at the top. I can literally smell the clutch in the van burning already, so that's a good thing. And just along the coast from here there's another little village called Gardenstown, I think. So let's go and have a look at that. I like your hair colour, have you just had it done? Well, I've failed to get to Gardenstown. The sign said it was 750 metres, but I think that was just to Upper Gardenstown. And to get down to the actual harbour, it's a good bit further. And I just don't have time, so I'll take a wee photo from above and we'll move on. Situations like these show you why the 2 days that I'm given this route is just not enough time. You could easily spend a week up here. The things I do for YouTube. We're now coming into Portsoy, another gem of the North Aberdeenshire coast. Famous for Portsoy marble, this town was the backdrop for another well-known movie, albeit a remake of the 1949 classic Whiskey Galore. The harbour here celebrated its 300th birthday in 1993, so it's now well on the way to 400. On my tight schedule, it's almost stressful driving along this north coast. It feels like every 5 minutes there's another sign saying fishing village or castle or viewpoint. I just want to see them all! The village we're now passing through is Cullen, and that's a name you might recognise as it's the home of Cullen skink, a traditional soup made from haddock, potato and onion. The Cullen viaduct that cuts right through the village is pretty cool as well. We're off now to try and find a natural landmark off the Moray coast, and it's one of those things you worry might not be around for much longer if a big storm hits. I'm now in Portnocky and I'm looking for the Fiddle rock. I'm sure it's around here somewhere. There's a few people down this way with cameras. That's a clue. There it is. Well, I've got to say, just like everywhere I've visited today, it's absolutely blown expectations. And it's a perfect way to cap the first day of the Northeast 250. Let's go and find somewhere to camp. I just stopped at the Buccaneer service station to get a drink. And you might be saying, why is it called the Buccaneer service station? Well, this is why. It's certainly not every day you see one of those at a petrol station. It's hard to believe the Blackburn Buccaneer was designed in the 1950s and it hasn't been used by the RAF since 1994. I'm feeling my age. And a bonus is they must have Americans at the base because they've got American candy. Day one has been absolutely fantastic. I must admit, when I first heard about this route I was a wee bit sceptical. I thought maybe it's just a rip-off of the North Coast 500. But I've got no doubts now. I mean, put up the signs, print the t-shirts, this is a proper route. And I'm sure tomorrow will bring something a wee bit different when we leave the coast. And I'm looking forward to completing the loop. As the sun goes down, I just want to show you something I've found. An actual pet cemetery. I don't quite know what to make of it. Some of them are really like elaborate. It seems like they started quite basic and then people are just going for it now. Good morning, day two. Whoever sorted this weather for me, thanks very much, you've done it again. I had a really quiet, comfortable night here in Lossiemouth, which is a problem because I've woken up far too late. So it's time to get to Fochabers and rejoin the Northeast 250. Let's go. We rejoin the Northeast 250 at Fochabers, home to the famous Baxter's factory, and I think they've still got a cafe on site where of course you'll get a lovely bowl of soup. As we head south and leave the coast behind, we'll soon be dropping deep into whisky country. I've stopped off in Craigellachie, not just because it's got the best Scottish name, but because it's very near to the Spey, and the River Spey is so important in these parts for fishing and for whisky. I've always thought, show me 10 photographs of rivers and I'll tell you which one's the Spey. It's just so unique, the colour of it, the pebble beaches. It's probably complete tosh, I couldn't do it. This is the beautiful Craigellachie Bridge. Construction of this Thomas Telford design started in 1812, but it was still open to vehicle traffic until as recently as 1972. Now that we're on Speyside, we start to see all these brown signs listing all the distilleries in the area, and there's so many of them. We're just going to be heading down the road to Dufftown, which sounds like an alcohol kind of place, and there's a couple of distilleries there I'd like to see. I'm not sure if I'll be able to take a tour yet because I haven't pre-booked anything, and at the moment you tend to have to pre-book everything here, but we'll see. Just before arriving in Dufftown, this is the Glenfiddich distillery. If you've only got time for one distillery tour, this is probably the one to go for. It's well established and offers a really good visitor experience. We then arrive in Dufftown, a gorgeous wee village nicknamed the malt whisky capital of the world. With hindsight, I should have really gone with the Glenfiddich tour, but hoping to try somewhere new I headed on to the Glenlivet. Unfortunately I couldn't get a tour here, and as nice as the shop and tasting rooms were, I couldn't afford anything here. Here we are now heading up into the Cairngorms, and this is Tomintoul, the highest village in the Highlands at 1,164 feet. Between here and Royal Deeside, the drive via the Lech Pass was my favourite driving road of the entire route. Beware though, during winter these high passes are vulnerable to closure due to snow, so always check before you go. It was at the Lech that I learned to ski, and it was perfect timing today as I could sit and watch No. 6 Squadron out of Lossiemouth playing about in their Typhoons high above. Once you drop down the other side of the stunning pass, the scenery becomes a lot more lush and green, as the tree-lined roads take you over beautiful bridges on the way to Royal Deeside and the Balmoral Estate. I'm here now at the Royal Lochnagar distillery, I've always liked that name, Royal Lochnagar. This is about as close as you can get to Balmoral Estate at the moment as well. It is open in the summer, and I will bring you back here in the summer to have a look at Balmoral Castle. I think it'd be quite spectacular, especially the whole estate, the surroundings, everything is beautiful. We'll have a look here, but I've got a feeling it'll just be the shop that's open. I got lucky, and as it was just me, I was able to squeeze onto a tour at the last minute. All distillery tours follow pretty much the same process, and each will explain why theirs is the most unique. It was good to visit one I hadn't been to before though, and wow, some of the whisky in these barrels, it's almost as old as me. That was a great tour of quite a small distillery, and one of the great things is a lot of distilleries, when you're finished, they'll give you a bottle, a miniature, because I'm driving. But this one, you actually fill your own little bottles of all the 4 different drinks that you'd tried. There was a bit of activity at the Balmoral gate as I was leaving, and it wasn't until I got home that I realised the Queen was just about to arrive as I left. The route then backtracks past Braemar Castle and on to Braemar itself. A lovely place, but way too busy for me, even on a Wednesday afternoon. From the route map, you'll see there's a bit of a tail in the North East 250 loop, and boy was there a sting in the tail. I saw some really dangerous driving down here and didn't enjoy this bit at all, despite how beautiful it was. So I went just beyond the Glenshee ski area and then turned back and headed for home. Heading back towards Aberdeen, you'll pass through a few towns like Ballater here. Royal Deeside is a popular route, especially on weekends, and there are lots of nice wee trails to explore, so expect it to be a bit busier than some of the places you've just come from. There's a lot of traffic queued up on the road up there, so as soon as I saw a little car park I just pulled in, and this is where we are. A nice little trail. And off in the distance I can see a bridge. We've passed a few of these, but I wasn't able to stop. So I'm so glad I can now show one to you. This is the Cambus May Bridge, and it dates from 1905. What I hadn't realised though was that it was badly damaged during Storm Frank in 2015, and it only reopened again earlier this year. The bridge itself is beautiful, but that forest beyond it, that's just magical. We'll cross back over. This seems to be quite a popular spot for swimming. What? And folks, that's us coming towards the end of the northeast route. I did stop off at Crathie Castle on the way back, but it was after 5 PM and everything was closed, so it was just to give you a sneaky wee peek at the castle and its grounds. The road ahead would lead on to Aberdeen in a few short miles, but it made a lot more sense for me to turn right here and head back into Stonehaven over the Cairngorms road. As we come into Stonehaven and past my old school, Mackie Academy, it's time for me to say thanks so much for watching today, and that I thoroughly recommend the Northeast 250 if you ever get the chance to try it for yourself. Thanks again, and see you soon.